Good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to today's episode of LASU CBT 18 Monthly Azure Webinar, where myself, Kazeem, and Adnan walk you through different Azure related topics. And today we're going to be discussing Azure Security Center. So without any further ado, I'm going to be sharing my slide now. So I'll take the beginning part of things, and Adnan, who is also on the call with us, will help us wrap things up. Again, the topic for today is Azure Security Center. And my name again is Kazeem Adegwega, and you can find me on Twitter at Kazeem Can Teach. And if you need to look me up on LinkedIn, Facebook, so you can search me using Kazeem Adegwega. All right, so let's get things started. We know that COVID now has made many organizations today embrace remote work. And now, due to the number of people that we have working remotely, working from home now, a lot of these people leverage cloud-based solutions to get their job done. So as a result of this spike in the number of cloud users now, a lot of cloud threat has also been on the increase. Cloud threats now has been on the increase. So Microsoft has a solution now that can help us mitigate this constantly evolving threat landscape that we have in the cloud, especially now in the Azure cloud. So the name of the solution, of course, is the Azure Security Center. The Azure Security Center is responsible for helping us scan your Azure services for threats and vulnerabilities. And when you scan for threats and vulnerabilities now, it's able to detect these threats and vulnerabilities using its inbuilt behavioral monitoring and machine learning algorithm, right? Now, after detection of these threats, the Azure Security Center is also able to respond to these threats found by giving us some actionable suggestions or recommendation that if we're to put in place, it can help us with protection of our Azure workloads and our data center. And as you can see from my slide here, that this process is a continuous process, right? Next, hybrid cloud requires a new approach for security. Azure Security Center gives us that clean visibility and control across our environment. So whether you're dealing with just the Azure cloud or whether you have some resources on premises as well, so the Azure Security Center can help. And we also know that applications that people build today in the cloud continue to evolve, right? A security center is that security solution that has been designed by Microsoft to keep up with the pace and speed of how things change in the Azure cloud, right? Now, because of the intelligence algorithm built into it, that's built into the Azure Security Center, things like the analytics, machine learning, and the likes, it is able now to quickly detect threats and provide us with recommendation, actionable recommendation. All right, so this next slide is talking about the security reference architecture for Microsoft. So I've decided to show this slide to give us a glance into the kind of investment that Microsoft is making to ensure that Microsoft solutions are secure in the cloud, and to give customers that rest of mind, give them that rest of mind that their data is secure in the Microsoft cloud. So as we know, Microsoft has a number of solutions. So whether it be Office 365 or IoT, or if we're talking about on-premises server or some other Azure related services, So all of these services all benefit from this security architecture that has been put together by the Microsoft security team. So Microsoft Azure Security Center. So we know already that the Azure Security Center gives us that unified visibility of our Azure workload. But the cool thing is that we're not only limited to the Azure cloud alone. So it can as well help us manage our on-premises infrastructure. So if you have VM on-prem, we can install agents on those VMs, and we can also, via those agents now, be able to manage those VMs. Or whether you have VM residing on other clouds as well, so you can leverage on Microsoft Azure Security Center. Next is adaptive threat prevention. So the Microsoft Azure Security Center provide proactive security posture management. It helps to continuously assess the security state of your cloud resources, and we know that it helps us provide actionable recommendation on how to improve your security across your cloud resources. Right, so I'm going to be showing it to you in just a little bit what the interface looks like. We really don't have to do much work, so it's just a question of clicking through the things. So you'll find some recommendations that you can just simply take actions by simply clicking through it, right? And finally, we have the intelligent detection and response. So the Azure Security Center uses advanced analytics and machine learning algorithm to process signals across Microsoft services, and it's also able to provide, of course, recommendations, right? So understanding security state across hybrid workload. By the way, this picture just gives you an overview of what the Azure Security Center looks like. When you are on the landing page of the Azure Security Center, this is what you get. So how about I quickly share my screen now to show you some of these things from my Azure portal. Okay, so this is an Azure portal that I've logged into here. So you can get to the Azure Security Center by simply typing in the search box here, typing Azure Security Center or Security Center for short, and it brings you to the Azure Security Center. Okay, so one of the very first things that you see is this secure score here. The secure score, so you can see that on the dashboard. So if you also need to access it, you can access it by clicking on it from as well. So what is the secure score? The secure score gives us a high-level overview of the overall status of our environment. So it gives us points. Now, as you can see, I have 0 or 51 points. So it gives points which let us know how secure our environment is. So we always want to make sure that we are aiming for a higher point. So the more points you have, it proves that the more secure, your Azure environment, your environment is. By the way, so if I click on my subscription here, so I'm also able to view recommendations. As you can see here, recommendations. Another way to get to the recommendation panel is by simply clicking on recommendations from here. What is recommendation? Recommendation are actions for you to take in order to secure your resources, in order for us to secure our resources. So there are actions that we need to take in order for us to secure our resources, whether it's or on premises. So you can see here that I have a number of recommendations. So if I were to implement this recommendation now, I'm going to get 10 points. So it's telling me now to enable MFA. So you see, there's nothing much we have to do. Just simply click on it and it walks you through the process, right? So it's telling me to secure management ports here. It's also telling me here that I need to remediate vulnerabilities. So if I'm to remediate this vulnerability that it is suggesting, then I get to allot 6 points. So you see, I can easily fix this by clicking on the quick fix. So if I click on the quick fix, let's see, it's telling me about enabling vulnerability assessment on my virtual machines. So if I click this now, it takes me to the virtual machine. So I can select the virtual machine or the virtual machines in question now and try to remediate them. And once remediated, I get to allot that point. Also quickly, let me talk about pricing. So even though Adnan is going to be walking us through it in more details during his session. So if I click on my subscription here, we would see that there are 2 pricing tiers to the Azure Security Center. So one is the free tier, right? So which cost us nothing. So with this, there's limitation to what we can do with the free tier. By the way, if you have an Azure subscription, we all have access to the Azure Security Center free version of it, right? But we can't do things like just-in-time VM access. We will not be able to do threat protection, get threat protection alerts. We won't be able to leverage on hybrid security. But at least, we're still able to view our secure score. We're still able to see actionable recommendations, right? But the second version is the paid version, so also called the standard version. So the standard version, of course, comes at a cost. But the difference here is that it comes with the Azure Defender. So the Azure Defender allows you to extend that free version of the Azure Security Center, to give you better protection. So now you're able to have advanced capabilities such as hybrid security. You're able to do things like get threat protection alerts. You're able to do vulnerability scanning across your VMs. You're able to do just-in-time access and many more, features. If there's going to be one takeaway from this session, is the fact that you need to at least be sure that you have the free version of the Azure Security Center enabled on your Azure tenant, right? So if you cannot afford to go with the paid version, but at least have the free version installed. It's important to note that the Azure Security Center is not enabled by default. Now, this is because a part of that requires that agents be deployed, right? So, and if we're looking to upgrade from the free version to the standard version, that's the paid version, so you need to be careful here to select it for services that you need, because you get charged based on what services you've selected here. If I know I'm going to need it for servers, so I can turn it on for servers. But if your environment is such that you are not leveraging Kubernetes, then it doesn't make sense to get charged for what you're not using. So you can simply turn it off for Kubernetes. So this is how to upgrade from free to the standard tier. So let's get back to the home screen now of the Azure Security Center. All right, so I've talked about the secure score. I've showed you the recommendations, and I've touched on pricing just a little bit. But keep in mind that there are a lot of other things that the Azure Security Center can help us with. It can help us with regulatory compliance. So if we're looking to do regulatory compliance, we find regulatory compliance here. Regulatory compliance gives us recommendation based on popular compliance standards, standards such as ISO, PSI, and the likes. So we can also take on inventory as well, via the inventory panel here. So the inventory panel gives you a high-level overview of your Azure resources and their protection status, right? There are a number of other things that we can do with it, but I'm going to leave the rest of the session for Adnan to cover. So Adnan, is over to you now. Please take it away.
Thank you, Kazeem. Let me just share my screen and start my side of the presentation. I'm leaving my camera off to save with the bandwidth, so I put a nice picture up there so people can see what I look like. My name is Adnan Hendricks. Just follow me on social media with @microspecialist, and welcome to the session. Now, as Kazeem started off with our session, Security Center gives you a lot of visibility into your overall security and compliance of your entire Azure estate, including, if you're running in hybrid mode with other clouds, you can hook it up to your infrastructure running on Google Cloud, AWS, on-premises infrastructure, etc. And, with the current state that we're in, with people also working from everywhere, and the heightened increase in threats running around, just in 2019, 95% of increase in the cost of a breach. And, if you're looking at Azure AD, you have about, billions of authentications happening every day. So there's quite a lot of places where you need to ramp up your security. So increase in number of sophistication and attacks. And just this year alone, there's been hundreds, or in fact billions of increase in phishing attacks and things happening in the name of the corona pandemic. So definitely something that we all need to look at. So with Azure Security Center, we can strengthen the security posture of your cloud infrastructure. You mentioned the secure score. There's also policies and compliance that we can do. And then there's the extra protecting against threats, not only for server infrastructure, but also for the native cloud infrastructure. And that's things like the PaaS services, like Azure SQL, those sort of things, the databases, cloud storage, all those sort of things that we can go and protect using Security Center. Now, there's been a number of advantages happening this year, or significant releases. That's all general availability. For example, the secure score has been enhanced. There's more custom policies, better automation, a number of different vulnerability assessments that you can perform on your infrastructure. You can think of it as like baselines with security settings that you can apply to your infrastructure, and then see what else you need to do to make it more secure. Things like threat protection for Key Vault, suppression rules, and increased community content, which is also something that I'll show you later on in the portal. To just have a look and see at the threat protection for cloud and enterprise. Now, if you're running multi-cloud or any other third-party operations management software, now it used to be threat protection. They've changed the naming to add Defender, and this is one of the new naming conventions or name changes that they released since Microsoft Ignite. So instead of Microsoft 365 threat protection or ATP, they now call it Defender, and Azure ATP is now Azure Defender. So Sentinel is generally something that you can have to look at trends and threats over time. So by tying into all your third parties and your multi-cloud infrastructure and also having the information that's from your email systems and identities and applications, and also the endpoint protection from Microsoft 365, feed that into Sentinel, and your cloud infrastructure running on Azure protected through Azure Defender, like your SQL, your network traffic. You can feed all that into Sentinel, so you have an integrated threat protection for your entire enterprise, no matter where your threat is happening. So depending on the kind of breach that you might be affected by, so let's say an end user clicks on an email and that ends up causing your Azure infrastructure to be compromised, for example. So with Sentinel, you can see all the parts of the kill chain that's been happening up to that point and time. So Security Center, like Kazeem mentioned, you have a free tier. So you're pretty much just getting a lot of the Security Center recommendations and secure scores, but generally the cloud workload protection, which is in the standard tier, and Defender, that's paid for services, and we'll have a look at those in a minute. So it gives you unified visibility and control with the Defender or threat protection, and also the intelligent detection and response. Remember, all these things are using machine learning, artificial intelligence, to make sure that the remains secure. So with that saying, that dynamic unified visibility and control, strengthening your multi-cloud and protecting your hybrid cloud with Defender for the different infrastructure layers. So across the hybrid infrastructure, generally insights, getting your information. The next slide, I'm going to show you the nice detailed security overview. So you can see a little bit more detail than you could in Kazeem subscription. So this example shows a current secure score that's almost just over 50% complete, and it has a number of different points added to it. So it generally looks at your security settings and compares that to a similar type of environment to see where you at. So there's a number of extra security settings or recommendations that you still need to complete to get a better score. At the same time, you can see certain companies need to comply to certain regulatory compliance and have those kind of standards. For example, ISO standards, NIST, PCI, or SOC. You also have high trust, and depending on your need to be compliant to that standard, with Azure Security Center, you can see that it is already built in. All you need to do is just make sure that you check all the boxes, have all the security settings in place, and then you can see that you are compliant to that specific standard. Now, these things are great if you need to be audited or hand these information to a partner or another company that needs to check your compliance. Well, they want to make sure that you're compliant with these standards. You could just, print it out and show them that you are compliant. So some of the nice things is it's actually giving you a lot of insights and a lot of controls to show you where you are protected across multiple subscriptions in Azure. And also, as you can see from the top of my graph or picture over here, that it also has AWS subscription and a Google projects, 3 with a number of active recommendations and a number of security alerts. So those are things that you want to go have a look at, and then just make sure that you enable the security feature. And sometimes it's as easy as just checking the box or clicking on a button with a quick fix, or it just takes you to the docs information with the steps for you to do and make sure that you have everything in place to keep it more secure. So with the Azure Defender, you're getting a lot of coverage over your infrastructure on threats. And that brings me to the demo so I can show you in my subscription. So right here, I'm signed into the portal, the Azure portal with the Security Center overview. You can see that I've only got a 50% completed secure score, 3 subscriptions, 18 active recommendations, a number of insights over here where it's giving me some information, telling me straight off the bat, Azure Defender for SQL Servers on machines should be enabled. So I should go ahead and do those kind of stuff. Also, Azure Defender is covering 70% across 9 resource plans, and I don't really have any security alerts. And as far as regulatory compliance, as you can see, I've completed quite a bunch of things. For example, my SOC TSP is completed, and then if I need to be compliant with the rest of these standards, I need to go and drill down into those things and make sure that I complete all the recommendations that they give me. So this gives you quite a detailed information. So here at the bottom, there's all the compliance controls, where depending on what I have in my subscription, I can go and implement these things. And all I have to do is just drill down and do it. The nice thing on top, though, I have a download report, so I can just download this whole report and go to manage my compliance policies. And there's for example, the PDF that I get, I can go and just show that to whoever needs to see my compliancy. So I'm just going to go back in to my overview, and generally you'll go to getting started. Now for my infrastructure on Azure, you can run a trial for 30 days and you'll be covered for 30 days, but then you can either get the standard for 30 days and then it will charge extra. I'll show you later how that works out. You can install agents on the infrastructure or service that aren't running in Azure. Now the agent gets automatically installed on the VMs that's already in your subscription, but obviously if it's running on another cloud platform or in your own environment, you will have to go and install it manually. So you'll have to go and download those. Looking at recommendations, so the number of recommendations across my resources, I can see which ones are healthy, which ones are unhealthy, and I can also drill down or scroll down and see which recommendations I need to go and apply. For example, I haven't enabled MFA on all my accounts. I can manage access. I have to ensure that I have disk encryption on my virtual machines. Disk encryption is just BitLocker encryption. I need to enable endpoint protection, so I need to go and make sure that those kind of things are, and also any other security, for example, system updates, so I can just click on it and remediation steps. It will just step me through the process, let me know which ones I need to go and look at. And yeah, I have the option to just trigger a logic app to go and enable that recommendation. So with security alerts, this is where I'll generally see if there are any threats or security alerts that I need to have a look at. Inventory is the infrastructure that I'm running in my Azure estate. For example, here I can see the number of resources that I have, and I'll have to go and see which ones are unhealthy. For example, my storage account that I'm drilling into now, I'll have to go and follow and see what they're recommending. So I've got public access still open up for the storage account, which means it's publicly accessible to whoever is on the internet. So to make it more secure, I can just click on the quick fix and it's going to remediate that resource. So it's busy fixing that for me and it's done. So it does say it can take several minutes for that remediation. So now it's medium. And if I go back to my security center and this would refresh, I'll see that this would be less unhealthy. So it's probably still give it some time to be in effect. But one of the new additions to this is the Azure Security Center community. So open source community collaboration from customers and partners. So these are technical experts and security experts that provide free community templates and recommendations and custom fixes for Azure workloads. So some of these things you can go directly to the community GitHub or within Security Center, just to have a look and see some of the options. So a lot of them are logic app playbooks or remediation templates, just like the quick fix that I just shown you, where you can just click on a button and it should fix or enable the recommendation or alert or problem that you have. So a lot of these can be accessed through API as well. And cloud security, you have your regulatory compliance, like I showed earlier. And once again, it just takes you to the same page where you can go and drill down into those regulatory requirements and just enable the ones that are red and fix them up. So with Azure Defender, this is where you can be fully protected. So I'm got certain things that aren't covered, but that's because I've got 3 subscriptions and I'm only running the paid or standard tier where this is active on 1 subscription. So you can see that that's the percentage of coverage that I have. And the thing is, you can't just decide you only want to have it covering a certain amount of servers. It covers your entire subscription. So everything in your subscription is covered. And remember, it's using machine learning, it's using artificial intelligence. It's not only just looking at specific threat signatures, but it's looking at, let's say, anonymous IPs that's sometimes also busy actively attacking, you know, another customer in Azure, but utilizing Azure Defender. Microsoft ensures that your tenant or your subscription where all your resources are running are protected from the same threat if they perceive that as a threat. So a lot of these things you don't even need to enable or do anything. You just have to make sure that you are covered. So some of these advanced protections is where you can run assessments on your infrastructure. So virtual machine vulnerability assessments. You can enable just-in-time virtual machine access on VMs. You have adaption application controls, protection on container images, and network hardening, and also assessments to ensure that your SQL servers are not susceptible to threats. And then also something that's really important is file integrity monitoring, where you have Defender looking at specific file signatures, ensuring only those that are trusted are being run. And network map gives you a nice topology of your network infrastructure. So mine is not displaying well. Let's see. Okay, so I don't have a lot of infrastructure running, but generally this gives you topology of your entire subscription, the number of virtual networks you're running, and also it shows you which subnets and also the virtual machines that are behind those subnets. And you can zoom in and drill down and get a nice. With the options on top, you can drill down and filter, for example, the ones that are healthy, unhealthy, with alerts, missing specific settings, drill down and see which ones are not configured for just-in-time VM access or DDoS protection, and also specific network zones for only internal, or having a look at the internet-facing ones. So all in all, a lot of detailed information that you're getting from the network map. It certainly is one of my favorite additions, because a lot of times you have no idea what's running or how something is configured, because I work as a consultant, right? So I end up going to a company and I'm the new guy, and I need to know what the company or the network looks like. And quite often, a lot of these documents and drawings that they have is outdated. So this gives me a unique, as it is, network map that I can go into and view and see all the information, and then I can print it out and also immediately get a good idea of what the network looks like. Now, one of the nicest things, if you're into IoT and you want to be protected against threats for your IoT devices, is the Defender IoT section. So you can go and set up sensor or just onboard sensors that you can do to collect network traffic information on your IoT devices, connect Defender for IoT to Sentinel to feed that in. So you have one-point stop software to go and view that, and also on-premises management console to have a view at all your IoT devices and look at the security risks and network communication that's running through that. So this is really something that I recommend people do if they are running into IoT devices or IoT systems, because that's one of the things that are being severely compromised at the moment. Looking further into management, so Kazeem already showed pricing and settings where you can go into specific subscriptions. So you can see that certain subscriptions, you can enable the Defender plan, or most of the time when you start up, you're starting off free, so you can enable the Defender plan or the paid standard subscription for 30 days, and then you can see how much the extra things really cost. So with the free plan, you're getting the secure score and all the assessments and recommendations, and that really already gives you a lot. But yeah, you can have a look and see the cost per server per month. And remember, all these things are billed hourly, and these are only for running machines. So if I don't have any running machines, I can put the plans off, but then I'm not covered. And then you have the provisioning. So this is where you can onboard and enable specific agents. If you're running Kubernetes, email notifications for the alerts, specify the email addresses, and then also threat detection, and then for workflow. And the cloud connectors, which is also new, this is where you can add in all those AWS accounts and Google Cloud accounts and get that cross-cloud information going. So with the policies, if you're running policies across different subscriptions, this is where you can drill down into the management groups and have a look at those, and also the security solutions that you can go and apply, adding non-Azure servers, if you have other SIEMs that you need to connect to, or if you need to deploy Azure Web Application Firewall. Once again, workflow automation that you can set up to auto or remediate or add some automation to fix things. And then once again, coverage, just showing you which subscriptions are not covered, partially covered, fully covered, etc., that you can go and add with those security center. So a lot of information. So once again, a lot of the recommendations that you can go and go in effect, because this is just high severity, and then all you need to do is just follow the remediation steps, etc. So I'm just going to go back to the presentation part. So that was a quick demo showing you the advanced steps with Azure Security Center. So I showed you the policy management, some of the things that you can go and have a look at and do, audit VMs, all the different policies that you can go and run, the integrated log analytics stuff, the security that you can pull in from different sources, like if you have any seams and those sort of things, and then the adaptive threat prevention with the Defender. So all those built-in assessments, there's a lot of these. You can also add your own, and also your own ones that you can have the workflow automation for the fixes, the limiting the exposure, especially the brute force attacks with just-in-time virtual machine access, blocking malware with the Defender on your virtual machines, and all those whitelisting of the file integrity monitoring that you can have. So quite a lot of intelligence and behavioral analytics that look at the different incoming requests on your public IP addresses, and if it's something that is a threat, or if it's integrated with anti-malware, or let's say you have firewall or third-party partners that also it can share some of that information. So I showed you that, with the Defender, these things tie into threats and attacks across your entire scope of your enterprise infrastructure. So you can see things like if a public IP is being brute forced, where it's being attacked, and also post-breach, some of the things that are showing over there. So good detailed insights and alerts and the recommendations that you can go and follow up in and ensure that you fill all the things for your SOC compliance, security, and depending on the threat intelligence, like let's say you're being attacked, you can see the nice maps of where the attackers are and how they are attacking your infrastructure. So these are some of the things that you can go and have a look at. So creating the workflows, triggering workflows from alerts, the notifications of the alerts that you can set in. I showed you guys where you can do that, restricting traffic from specific IP addresses, for example, how you can have a look at the different alerts and then add them into specific incidents and fuse it into a single incident. This I've also already mentioned. Security Center can lock all those things, and also stopping malware by whitelisting stuff, because that's one of the things that will always secure you, tying into the log analytics SIEM with or Sentinel that you can send all the information to, so you can get that overview and do the trend of the threats. So that's pretty much it on my side. I've already shown you the demo, the pricing we spoke about, the Defender plan, and also the what you're getting for free and really what you're paying for. And as you can see, it's really all those artificial intelligence and insights that you're paying for, and regulatory compliance. And that's the things that you need that makes it easier for you to keep all your infrastructure secure, and also making sure that you are connecting and checking all the dots to be compliant with all the standards. Pricing seems expensive and can be, but it's better to have, good security than none. Because if you have public IP addresses or things that are publicly accessible, they pretty much always being, under attack. And also just to quickly show you the architecture, we have Azure and on-premises infrastructure with your network and PaaS services. And Security Center can pretty much look at all that information across your entire network and infrastructure landscape. If you have third parties, tie into the REST APIs, have your notifications and automations running, and keep yourself protected, which takes me to all you guys need to do to get started is just to sign up for a free Azure subscription. If you don't have one, enable Security Center. You can try it out free for 30 days. The first step is always to act on your top 5 recommendations and enable the Azure Defender, because that really takes away the thinking when it comes to security. So to learn more, go to Azure, Microsoft.com, Security Center, and it's as easy as anyone just doing it. So Security Center does most of the work. And just before I hand you over to Kazeem, leave you with my details again, and thank you for joining this session. So, Adnan Hendricks signing off. Follow me on Twitter @microspecialist. Thank you very much. Back to you, Kazeem.
All right, thank you so much, Adnan, for Yes, so we do this every month. So next month is going to be another month. So watch out for another very interesting episode next month. So here's where we're going to call it a close for today. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in, and those that will be watching this recording, the later time. Thank you.
And also let us know what other topics you'd like to see, because I think our next steps, we're going into identity, focusing on identity and security, because those are the most important things right now, especially with everybody working from home and everywhere else. Everybody's under threat, and we need to keep it more secure.
Exactly. Yes. So it's bye-bye now from myself and Adnan. So
and bye-bye from me.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.